Democratic lawmakers condemned Florida's new Everglades Immigration Detention Center after visiting Saturday, describing it as crowded, unsanitary, and bug-infested. Republicans on the same tour said they saw nothing of the sort at the remote facility that officials have dubbed Alligator Alcatraz. The state-arranged tour came after some Democrats were blocked earlier from viewing the 3,000-bed detention center that the state rapidly built on an isolated airstrip surrounded by swampland. So many state legislators and members of Congress turned up Saturday that they were split into multiple groups. There are really disturbing, vile conditions, and this place needs to be shut the hell down. Democrats told reporters after visiting the agglomeration of tents, trailers, and temporary buildings. This place is a stunt, and they're abusing human beings here. Cage-style units of 32 men share 3 combination toilet sink devices. The visitors measured the temperatures at 83 degrees, 28 degrees Celsius in a housing area, entranceway, and 85 degrees in a medical intake area.
Today, a group of Democratic lawmakers were given what they called a sanitized tour of the facility, which they compared to an, quote, internment camp. It comes as major questions are being raised about the safety and the conditions inside, including a report in the Associated Press that there are worms in the food and wastewater on the floor. Congress members Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Maxwell Frost were 2 of the lawmakers who were able to go inside. Here's what they had to say after.
The conditions that we saw inside this internment camp, which it is nothing less than that description, were really appalling.
We saw humans being held in cages. You heard it from Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. 32 people per cage, 3 toilets in each cage for these 32 people, and their drinking water comes from the toilet.
And joining us now is Florida Congressman Maxwell Frost, one of the lawmakers you just heard from there. Congressman Frost, thank you for joining us this evening. First, I want you to paint a picture for us of what it was like inside this facility, the sights, the sounds, the smells. But also, given that Democrats are describing this as a sanitized tour, what do you think happened in the days, the hours leading up to the moment at which you got access to this site?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. I mean, this was a very heartbreaking and emotionally draining day, seeing other humans being held in cages. 32 people per cage, only 3 toilets per cage. Look, when they opened that door, and they didn't let us fully in, but they let us just stand at the door. I heard people yelling for help. In the background, I heard one gentleman yell, "I'm a U.S. citizen." I heard people begging for us to contact their family. Someone said, "Please get my mom, tell her I'm okay." And then at the end, while we were walking out, they all started chanting, "Libertad, libertad, freedom, freedom." And when I was looking at those cages, I saw myself. I saw people my age, people who looked exactly like me. And so I'm ashamed as a Floridian, and every Floridian should be ashamed that our taxpayer dollars are being used to create this internment camp for immigrants. What were the sites? What were the fields where it was incredibly hot? I mean, when we walked into that and we saw the gentlemen in the cages, they were sweating. You could tell there was the smell in the air of so many people being pushed together like that. There were so many mosquitoes and bugs, and people talk a lot about the gators here, but sometimes the deadliest thing you can encounter in Florida is actually a mosquito carrying some sort of sickness or something like that, or bacteria that can get to you. Tons of mosquitoes. Even talking to the staff, I spoke with the van driver who was driving us around, and he said, "I get bit up every day." And that's one of the staff members. These conditions are horrible. This place needs to be shut down. It's nothing more than a stunt, but it's a stunt that's using real humans, real people. And I'm just very ashamed, and I'm disgusted sitting here right now, having come from that facility.
But to be clear, because you've described it as this sanitized tour, are you saying that you think the officials there did something? Like, you're describing what already sounds like inhumane conditions. But are you suggesting this must have been better than what is regularly going on at this site?
Exactly. What we saw was abhorrent. What we saw are horrible conditions. And this was the sanitized version. This is the version where they had 4 to 5 days to clean up, to get things ready. You know, we have been communicating through their lawyers. We've heard stories of people there at the facility. In fact, I pulled up to this facility, and I want to show you. I pulled up to this facility with a binder full of questions, but also with pictures, with testimonies from my constituents that are being held in there. And something we heard last night from some folks is magically they finally got a shower. Magically, the food got a little better. So this is them sanitizing things in preparation for this tour. We actually planned to go this morning about a week ago unannounced. And somehow that information got to the governor's office and they decided to invite us to come. But what they have to realize is we don't need their permission. It is in the law. Members of Congress can enter these facilities at any time, and I will be back at a time of my choosing, at a date of my choosing, to see things how they really are. But what you said is important. This was the sanitized version, and it was still 32 people in a cage, not getting enough food, flies and bugs in the air. Literally, and I had mentioned this before, you have 3 toilets, and connected to the toilet on the top is a spigot, and that's how they drink their water.
There we have it. Another promise fulfilled by the Trump admin. The only kind of promise it ever fulfills: to brutalize and detain his supporters' perceived enemies. There is something so chilling and disturbing about a group of people fantasizing about immigrants being possibly eaten by alligators, wearing caps and t-shirts commemorating a facility built with their tax dollars, taken away from social safety net programs like Medicaid so they can feel safer, or at least know that someone else is suffering worse than they are. This is why it's so frustrating to hear some of these same Democratic lawmakers perpetuating this myth of reasonable center-right Republicans. Those people voted for this. They voted for the big boy bill. They toured this facility, which we have video evidence of how shoddily built and inhumane it looks, and say that it looks fine to them. And there's word now that this is just the beginning. Out of the $170 billion being handed to ICE, $45 billion is earmarked for the construction of at least 60 similar detention centers to be built around the nation. While on the other side of things, the administration attempts to remove birthright citizenship, giving it carte blanche to deport, detain, and oppress whoever it wants. So what can we do to stop this? Right now, other than protesting, waiting for the next round of elections, or hoping that nature takes its course, we have to accept that this is the law of the land, and there is no legal recourse to defend against this. Take from that what you will. AT News, I'm Dave.